In this video we illustrate cell potentials by doing a couple of numerical examples. The first one is to determine the standard cell potential for the following redox reaction. It's going to be copper 2+ reacting with solid zinc to generate copper solid and then zinc 2+. And again, our goal is to determine the standard cell potential. The standard cell potential is provided by this equation. Potential of the cathode minus the standard potential of the anode. And it turns out that these potentials are provided in tables of standard reduction potentials. So the first thing that we have to identify then is what reaction is in the cathode and what reaction is in the anode. Okay, so what we do is we take the overall redox reaction and split it into the half reactions, the oxidation and the reduction. Right, so let's look at the oxidation reaction, which in that case is going to be zinc solid to generate zinc 2+ plus 2 electrons, and again that is the oxidation, and this takes place in the anode. And then the reduction, which will take place in the cathode, will be copper accepting 2 electrons to get solid copper. Alright, great. So then we go to the tables of the standard reduction potentials, and then what we do is we find out what the standard reduction potentials for these redox processes are. Okay, so the reduction potential for the zinc 2+ zinc reduction, okay, this happens to be minus 0.76 volts, and then the standard reduction potential of the copper 2+ to copper reduction, that happens to be plus 0.34 volts. Okay, so then we are ready to plug these values into the equation to figure out what the overall cell potential would be. Now, something that might be confusing is the fact that the potentials that we have in the tables are all reduction potentials. Okay, however, the reaction that is working in the anode is actually an oxidation. So the question is, well, do we have to flip this sign or not? Well, the answer is no. You always take the reduction potentials provided in the table. And what's going to happen is that that negative sign that you have in that expression is actually going to change the sign so that for the oxidation, right? So that instead of a reduction, you're going to turn it into an oxidation. But again, the way to not make any mistakes here is to simply always take the numbers that you get in the table, all those reductions, and again, whether one is flipped with respect to the table or not, that will be taken care of by this negative sign, right? So it's paramount then to know what reaction is the oxidation, so that you know which one acts on the anode and what reaction is the reduction, and therefore operates in the cathode. Okay, under these conditions, then we can calculate the cell potential simply as plus 0.34 volts minus 0.76 volts. Notice that I have not flipped the sign, and that is just simply taken care of by that negative sign. So this is equal to 1.10 volts. Okay, that will be that will mean that the reaction is spontaneous once you have the zinc oxidizing in the anode and copper reducing in the cathode. Okay, and then that means that we will be able to extract some energy as electrical work out of this process. Okay, so that is the first example. The second example is going to be to use two pairs, two reductions, or one of them are reduction, the other one an oxidation, and then figure out whether you have to place one of these processes in the anode and which of the processes you need to put in the cathode. Okay, so the idea is as follows. Suppose that now we have to build a cell with the following pairs. Okay, you're going to have tin to 2 to tin. Okay, and then we're going to have zinc 2+ to zinc. All right, so notice that in that standard reduction potentials table, we always have the reductions. Okay, so that will be the reduction of tin to plus to tin and zinc to plus to zinc, right? And now we go to the tables, and then we find that this number happens to be minus 0.14 volts, and that this reduction is equal to minus 0.76 volts. Right, so now you actually have two choices. The idea is, well, how do you work these two half reactions in order to be able to make the reaction spontaneous and be able to extract electrical work? You have two choices. You either put the tin reaction in the cathode or the tin reaction in the anode. That's the idea. And of course the zinc reaction will go to the opposite electrode. Well, so when we look at this expression, what we actually need to have for a spontaneous process would be a positive cell potential. Okay? And what that means is that if you have two negative terms right here, right, the more negative of them, okay, should be in the anode, okay, so that you make the overall cell potential positive, right? So if you have two positive reduction potentials, you will have the more positive in the cathode. If you have two negative cell potentials, then you will have the more negative in the anode. Okay, so in other words, in these two numbers, you're always going to have the larger number, including the sign, okay, in the cathode, right? So in this case, the larger of these two numbers, once you include the sign, will be this. The more positive will be this, and what that means is that the reaction is going to run in the cathode, and then it will be a reduction, and then what that means is that the zinc reaction will be in the anode, and that will act as an oxidation. Right, so our half reactions then are going to be, I know that tin has to reduce, so then the reaction will go like this, and this will be your reduction in the cathode, and then zinc is going to act in the anode, and then the half reaction will be an oxidation. Okay, so zinc is going to go to the anode, the tin is going to go to the cathode, and then we can calculate the cell potential. Okay, so that will be the standard reduction potential of the cathode, which is minus 0.14, minus the standard reduction potential of the reaction in the anode, which is this one, that is an oxidation, and that is in the anode. And that is equal to minus 0.76 volts. Okay, so overall, you're going to get here a cell potential of plus 0.62 volts. Alright, so again, as written, putting the zinc oxidation in the anode and the tin reduction in the cathode, you will get a spontaneous process from which you can harvest electrical work. Now, what would have happened if you actually flip the reactions, right? Suppose that you actually put the tin reaction in the anode and the zinc reaction in the cathode. What will happen is that these two numbers will be swapped, and that means that you will obtain a cell potential of minus 0.62 volts, meaning that the reaction would not be spontaneous under those conditions, and that means that if you want the reaction to take place, then you would need to supply electrical work so that the reaction can happen. Okay? So with these two examples, we have illustrated how to calculate cell potentials, and then what are the design rules to obtain effective cells. The idea is that whenever you have very negative reduction potentials, you have to run that reaction as an oxidation in the anode. Okay? And when you have very positive potentials, then you would like to write that reaction in the cathode as a reduction.